viral. It was a LinkedIn post by Anish Sengupta.
Yeah, I saw that one. He's a tech professional based in Bengaluru, I think.
That's the one. And he just meticulously compared the financial, the career, and I guess the emotional return on investment of working in three major global hubs: the USA, his home country of India, and Dubai.
And that post just struck such a nerve, didn't it? It's because he was putting words to this growing anxiety, especially for, the upwardly mobile middle class, particularly in India.
How so?
Well, they're feeling this squeeze. You have rising taxes, both direct and indirect, and at the same time, their disposable income, the money they actually have left at the end of the month, it just feels like it's shrinking.
So his post moved the conversation away from just who has the biggest paycheck.
Exactly. It became about a much more fundamental question of, financial sustainability. Can you actually build a life with the money you have left?
Okay, so our mission today is to go way beyond that initial LinkedIn summary. We're going to unpack the real value proposition of each of these places.
Right, so we'll be looking at expert global cost indices, some real-world testimonials from high earners.
And also, critically, we're going to examine those hidden costs and cultural trade-offs that don't show up on a spreadsheet, the stuff that's inherent in each geography.
We're hoping to give you the data you need to even begin thinking about this kind of massive life decision, whichever direction you might be leaning.
Yeah, sounds good. But before we dive in, let's just frame the whole conversation. We should probably start with Sengupta's final summarized verdict. This was the hook that got everyone talking.
Yeah, let's do that. So he basically concluded, after all his analysis, that Dubai is the undisputed champion for maximizing your tax-free income and, I guess, enabling a luxury lifestyle.
Okay, Dubai for the money. What about the others?
He said India offers the best path for a strong family life and that long-term inherent job stability.
Family instability. Makes sense.
And finally, the USA. He concludes it's still the gold standard for global career growth, for accessing those just, eye-wateringly high nominal salaries.
Okay, so money, family, career. That's the framework. So let's start unpacking these claims. And I think we have to begin with the place that promises you get to keep the most cash in your pocket.
We have to. Dubai.
Let's do it.
We have to start with the most obvious point because it is the single biggest driver for talent migration to the Gulf region. And that is Dubai's zero income tax environment.
It's not just a nice little perk, is it?
No, not at all. It's a fundamental restructuring of your entire financial landscape as a professional. It changes everything.
And you can see why the professional class is so hungry for it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the growing frustration in high-tax places, whether that's, the middle class in India we just mentioned, or as we'll get into later, heavily taxed professionals in the UK, the idea of keeping 100% of your earned income is, well, it's a massive magnet.
It completely changes the math, especially for high earners. There's this demographic that people are calling Henrys.
Henrys, yes.
Yeah, it stands for high earners, not rich yet.
Okay, I think I know a few of those.
We all do. They're professionals, maybe in their 30s or 40s, making good six-figure salaries. But their ability to actually build wealth is constantly being held back by high costs and, crucially, high taxes. For them, zero income tax is an absolute game changer.
And we saw some really concrete, almost astonishing anecdotal data on this, specifically from Henry expats who moved from London to Dubai. This isn't just theory. This is what happened to their bank accounts.
Right.
One person, a professional in finance, they reported that their monthly savings went from a pretty respectable £1,500 back in London.
It is not bad at all.
Not bad at all. But in Dubai, it went up to a jaw-dropping £8,000 per month.
8,000. Wow. Just stop and think about that increase for a second. That's more than 6 times the monthly savings.
It's life-changing money. And another story, a finance professional who made a lateral move, same company, same job title, saw their monthly savings jump from $2,500 to $6,000.
And what was the common thread? What did they say was the reason?
The conclusion they all shared was just crystal clear. For these high earners, the entire difference in what they were saving each month was, and I'm quoting here, literally how much tax you pay in the UK per month.
So the tax they weren't paying became their savings. It's that direct.
It is that direct. It's profound. I mean, think about it. If you're earning, say, $200,000 a year in a high-taxed European country, you could easily be losing 35, maybe 45% of that to income tax, social contributions, all these mandatory levies.
Yeah, it just vanishes before it even hits your account.
Exactly. But if you move that exact same salary to Dubai, that 40% suddenly becomes pure savings capacity. If you're single and your goal is just to maximize wealth for a short period, say 5 years, it just seems unbeatable on paper.
It really does. It looks like the perfect financial hack, but. And there's always a but. That's where we have to bring in the heavy anchor of the cost of living reality check.
Like this is what the chartered accountant Nitin Kaushik was really emphasizing in his analysis.
Exactly. That incredible savings potential has to be weighed against the actual high cost of existing in a modern Gulf metropolis.
So let's talk about the biggest shock for most people, which is usually housing. The disparity is just enormous.
It is. Kaushik's analysis showed that a pretty modest one-bedroom apartment in Dubai.
A 1 BHK.
Right, a 1 BHK. It can easily cost you anywhere from 1.5 lakh rupees up to 3 lakh rupees per month.
Okay, now let's ground that. Put yourself back in a major Indian city, Mumbai, Bangalore. A similar kind of apartment might cost you, what, between 40,000 and maybe 70,000 rupees?
The difference is exponential. It's not a small jump. So even if you're saving, say, 5 lakh a month in taxes, if your housing costs just shot up by 2 lakh, you've just seen 40% of your tax advantage get eaten up just to keep a roof over your head.
And it's never just the rent, is it?
Never. Even everyday things are inflated. Okay, a box of milk is a bit pricier, sure. But look at infrastructure costs. That's where you see it.
Public transport.
Public transport. Dubai has a fantastic world-class metro system, but you pay for it. A monthly metro pass there is about 8,500 rupees.
And in Mumbai, a monthly pass is a minuscule 350 rupees.
Exactly. That single gap tells you everything you need to know about the two different economic models. Dubai's infrastructure is built for and by a high-spending consumer base.
Right.
If you're moving from India, you're suddenly paying, what is that, 24 times more for your basic commute.
You really have to adjust your mental accounting of what things should cost.
You do. So yeah, Dubai offers this incredible potential for high-end living and, really aggressive wealth accumulation, but you are definitely making some big trade-offs in lifestyle and security.
The high cost of living is one. It just chips away at that tax advantage.
Yeah.
And Sengupta's sources also pointed to a really crucial career factor, the prevalence of contract-based jobs.
And that's a big one. Contract-based employment just inherently means less job security. It's not like in India or Western Europe where you often have these robust labor laws protecting you.
So if the contract ends, or the market shifts,
then the professional has to find a new position, and fast. Otherwise, they face a mandatory exit from the country. Your right to be there is tied directly to your job.
which leads to that huge political reality of the whole thing.
Yeah.
For most expats, there's no pathway to citizenship.
None. Dubai is, and it's explicitly designed this way, a destination for wealth extraction over a set period of time. That temporary status means you can't really put down roots or plan a multi-generational future there. It just lacks that long-term stability you get from a full social contract.
So it's a calculated gamble. High reward, for sure, but you have to accept the higher cost of living and the fact that you're always just visiting, in a way.
Precisely. And we should also just mention that the zero tax pull, it's a regional thing. You see other nations nearby, like Saudi Arabia, KSA, they also offer no income tax, and they're drawing in similar talent.
Is their model identical?
Mostly, though, KSA does have a 15% VAT on goods, which kind of shaves a little off that pure tax-free edge compared to Dubai, but the core principle is the same.
So the Middle East offers this pure high-stakes financial play. It's geared toward maximizing your capital over a fixed period. But the second you start looking for permanence or a safety net, you have to look somewhere else.
Absolutely. And that brings us perfectly to the USA, the place that promises the biggest number on the pay stub. But the question is, how real is that American dream once you land? Okay, so if Dubai wins the tax war, hands down, then the USA is the unquestioned global champion of the high nominal salary. It is the benchmark everyone else measures against.
And the data we have really confirms the sheer scale of that earning potential, right? I'm looking at the gross disposable income per capita for 2023. The U.S. was reported at $62,722.
It's a huge number, and to really get your head around it, you have to compare it to other major developed economies. So Germany, for example, was way lower at $42,400.
And the U.K. is even lower than that, at about $36,000.
Right. So the sheer productivity of the U.S. economy, especially in high-wage sectors like tech and finance, it just translates into these nominal earnings that are, well, unparalleled.
But that creates this illusion of limitless wealth, doesn't it?
Okay.
The reality is that the high salary comes wrapped in a truly complex, multi-layered, and, let's be honest, often crushing tax and cost structure.
The U.S. tax strain is like a hydra. You cut off one head, two more appear.
Okay, let's spend some time on this because it's so important to understand how that massive salary gets chipped away. It's not just one tax.
Not even close. You're dealing with federal taxes, which can go up to 37% at the top end.
Okay, that's layer one.
Then you add on state taxes. And then in some of the big metro areas, you even have city taxes on top of that.
So let's take a high earner in a place like New York or California. What does that actually look like?
Well, you're hitting the high federal brackets, for starters. Then your state income tax in a place like California could be over 10%.
Wow.
And in New York City, your city tax adds another 3 or 4%. All of a sudden, that $200,000 salary is facing an effective tax rate of well over 40%. And that's before we even talk about the hidden costs.
And the hidden costs are startling. Let's talk about one that people often forget about until they buy a home. Property tax.
Oh, it's a monster. We saw a real-world example of someone who bought a $1.4 million apartment in New York City.
And their annual property tax bill.
$24,000.
A year.
A year. That's basically the cost of an entry-level salary, just going to the city for the privilege of owning a home. That dramatically changes how you think about the cost of housing.
But you could be smart about this, right? It's very location dependent.
It is. This is a key part of the American financial game. If you move to a tax-friendly state like Texas or Florida, which have no state income tax, you can mitigate a lot of that drain. For a middle-income earner, you could get your overall effective rate down closer to, say, 22 to 25%.
So geographical optimization is huge.
Yeah.
But even if you do that, you still face what I think is the ultimate hurdle. The thing that really defines the U.S. economic model.
And what's that?
The near total lack of a universal social safety net.
Yes. Many analysts are now arguing that U.S. salaries have to be higher than their peers.
Why?
Because they are implicitly paying the employee to carry their own immense financial risk. It's basically hazard pay for living in the system.
It's a transfer of systemic risk from the state directly to the worker. And nowhere do you feel that more than in healthcare.
The examples we found are just staggering. For a family, the monthly premium for health insurance can easily be $1,500.
The $1,500 a month, that's $18,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just for the right to have insurance, before you've even seen a doctor.
And the risk doesn't even stop there. Even with insurance, you're facing huge costs from co-pays and deductibles.
We heard some wild stories. One professional paying $500 out of pocket for just a short, simple doctor's visit.
And someone else was detailing how they pay $1,000 a month just for their medication. And that's with a high-tier insurance plan. This constant, unpredictable potential for a catastrophic bill is a huge psychological weight.
The American system basically requires you, the employee, to become your own insurance company. You have to budget for the possibility that a medical emergency could just wipe out years of your savings.
Whereas in a peer country, that risk is managed by the state through taxes. In the U.S., it's managed by your potential for massive personal debt.
And God forbid you want to raise a family, the costs then become simply staggering. Childcare is a monster.
It's a huge drain. In most U.S. cities, full-time daycare for one child can easily cost between $1,200 and $1,800 a month per child.
Per child. So if you have 2 young kids, you could be looking at $3,600 a month.
Do the math on that. That's over $43,000 a year after tax, just for childcare so you can go to work.
That really puts that high salary into a terrifying perspective.
It does, and you can compare that to Canada, for instance. They're rolling out these national subsidized programs. In some provinces, childcare costs are dropping to as low as 10 Canadian dollars a day.
$10 a day versus $1,800 a month. The difference is just, it's a different world.
It frees up thousands of dollars a month. It gives families actual financial breathing room.
You know, the whole North American contrast is fascinating. Because outside of wages, some things are actually cheaper in the U.S.
That's true. Housing and groceries can often be cheaper in the U.S. than in Canada, partly because some of those tax-friendly states we mentioned don't have taxes on food.
But those small advantages just get completely wiped out, don't they? They're negated by the unpredictable, enormous costs of the big safety net items.
Healthcare and higher education.
Exactly. The U.S. gives you the big raw salary, but then it demands you fund your entire social infrastructure out of your own pocket.
And on a macro level, it seems like this pressure isn't really sustainable, even with the high salaries. The fact that the affordability crisis has become a top political issue in the U.S. by 2026 tells you something. It tells you everything. It's not just individual financial stress anymore. It's a systemic economic pressure. It shows that even those high nominal salaries are struggling to keep pace with the fundamental costs of living an American life. You know, this whole conversation, we keep running into the same trap. A salary is just a raw number until you understand what it can actually buy you in a specific place.
Right. To really compare the value of, say, $100,000 in Mumbai versus $100,000 in Manhattan, we need to bring in a really critical economic idea.
Purchasing power parity, PPP.
Okay, let's slow down here and really define this for everyone listening. Why can't we just use the market exchange rate? You know, the dollar to rupee rate you see on Google.
Because those market exchange rates are, well, they're volatile. They're influenced by all these macro things like tariffs and transaction costs and what central banks are doing. They don't really reflect what we call absolute purchasing power.
So what does PPP do differently?
PPP is a metric that tries to standardize this. It measures the real value of a currency by comparing the price of an identical basket of goods and services. You know, things like a loaf of bread, a month's rent, a haircut, across different locations.
So it's basically a ratio. If that standard basket of stuff costs $100 in New York, but only $30 in Mumbai, the PPP tells us that your dollar actually goes much, much further in Mumbai.
Exactly. Even if the nominal exchange rate is different, without using PPP, we risk just severely underestimating the true spending power that people have in these lower cost economies.
Got it. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. We have this global cost index snapshot, and it sets the USA as the benchmark, right? So the US is 100 for both the cost index and the purchasing power index.
Right. Everything is relative to that 100. So now let's look at our 3 comparison countries.
Let's start with India. Its cost index is, wow, it's incredibly low. It's at 23.8.
Which confirms what we all intuitively know. The cost of living is exceptionally cheap compared to the US benchmark. But look at its purchasing power index.
That's only 13.3.
And this is the crucial nuance. While the nominal costs are low, the absolute purchasing power when compared to high-wage countries is still very, very low. That gap really highlights the fundamental economic disparity between the regions.
And this is compounded when you look at the raw salary data.
It really is. The post-tax average monthly salary figures for 2025 just anchor this whole reality. The USA leads the pack at $4,245 a month, ranking 9th in the world.
And India is way behind at just $735, ranking 82nd.
And for comparison, Saudi Arabia, as a peer to Dubai, is in the middle at about $1,995, ranking 34th.
Those Indian salary figures, they starkly illustrate the financial driver behind this whole global mobility trend we're talking about. I mean, even if the cost of living is low where you are, a $700 average monthly salary, that's a powerful reason to go looking for a 4 or 5 times higher wage abroad.
It's a huge motivator. But let's look at an interesting outlier, just to show that a high cost of living doesn't automatically mean low purchasing power. Let's look at Singapore.
Okay, so Singapore's cost index is high. It's 78.0, meaning it's about 78% as expensive as the U.S.
But here's the surprise. Its purchasing power index is 114.8.
Wait, it's higher than the U.S.?
It's higher. That figure is so telling. It means that when you account for the mix of high salaries, efficient markets, and the services available, the absolute purchasing power for the average consumer in Singapore is actually stronger than in the U.S. benchmark.
So it proves the sweet spot isn't just about finding a low-cost place.
Not at all. It's about high earning capacity combined with a really efficient economy. That's the magic formula.
Okay, so moving beyond the pure economics for a minute, Sengupta's analysis wisely brought us back to the non-financial side of things, the factors that often make or break these career decisions.
Yeah, for the USA, we're talking about intense professional competition, the ever-present threat of mass layoffs, which we see all the time in tech.
And for non-citizens, the huge, decade-long stress of the visa process, the H-1B visa, ties your entire future to your employer.
It's high risk, high reward, and very high uncertainty.
And then on the other side, India offers these powerful benefits that are rooted in security and culture. You have strong job security, which is often backed by pretty robust labor laws.
And for so many people, the incomparable advantage of having your family close, being in your home culture, you are home.
But there's a flip side there too, isn't there? India is also known for a high-pressure, sometimes unforgiving hustle culture.
That's right. Persistently long working hours that are often far worse than what you'd find in Europe or even in many U.S. tech firms. So the stability is there, but sometimes the work-life balance is what you sacrifice for it.
So the decision really hinges on what you're willing to trade. Is it cash for stability, stability for cash, or maybe family for career growth?
That's the core of the gamble.
To bring all these global pressures into really sharp focus, I think we need to look at a specific sector, one that is inherently global and requires highly specialized skills. Let's talk about medicine.
Oh, that's a perfect case study. The mobility trends for doctors and dentists perfectly illustrate the financial erosion that's pushing top professionals out of these established, high-tax Western systems.
So for this, we're looking at data from the UK. It's the Review Body on Doctors and Dentists Remuneration Report for 2025, the DDRB report.
And this report is fascinating. It basically functions as an intelligence briefing on the global talent war for medical staff. It tracks where UK-trained doctors are going and, more importantly, why they're leaving.
And the list of countries they track as competitors and destinations is so revealing. It includes Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Canada, the USA.
But also India, Pakistan, the UAE, Egypt, and Sri Lanka.
It confirms that these are the key nodes in this global professional circuit. Professionals are scanning the entire planet looking for the best possible trade-off.
And the data shows this really interesting pattern. It's about stability and attraction. So of the UK medical graduates who actually left the system between 2012 and 2017, a huge chunk of them, 43%, later returned.
So they came back.
They came back, usually within about 3 years. And this suggests that while the initial financial pull of foreign markets is really strong, something about the professional ecosystem or the family ties in the UK eventually pulls almost half of them back home.
But the real insight for me, the thing that explains the brain drain mechanism, comes from the demographics of who is leaving. A massive 79% of the UK leavers who were moving specifically to the UAE.
They weren't British
nationals.
Right. They were non-British nationals who had already been working inside the UK's National Health Service, the NHS.
What does that tell you?
It's a critical finding. It means the UK system is basically acting as this high-quality, government-funded training ground, but then it loses its non-native talent to higher-paying, tax-free places like the UAE, which can offer them a dramatically better net salary without any of the hassle of immigration or the huge expense of training them in the first place.
And the reason for this exodus, it's rooted in pure financial erosion. Let's just look at the numbers for a UK doctor.
Yeah, the data is stark. Between September 2010 and December 2024, the general cost of living in the UK went up by 51%.
Okay, so things got 51% more expensive.
And average weekly earnings across the whole economy, for everyone, went up by 60%.
So wages outpaced inflation a little bit.
For most people, yes. But the earnings for a foundation year one doctor, so a junior doctor just starting out, only rose by 35% in that same period.
So their pay just completely failed to keep up.
It failed to keep up with both inflation and general wage growth. The consequence is this tangible drop in their economic status.
So they're actually getting poorer relative to everyone else.
Actively getting poorer. A junior doctor went from earning above the 66th percentile of full-time workers in the early 2010s down to the 53rd percentile by 2024. Even as they're taking on more responsibility, their relative earning power is falling.
And this pressure must create huge recruitment challenges, right?
Yeah.
Even for fields that are normally really attractive, like dentistry.
Absolutely. The report shows that even though undergraduate applications to study dentistry have doubled in 5 years, so people still want to be dentists, attracting those new graduates to work in the public NHS system is incredibly difficult.
Because the compensation is just too low.
Precisely. And the government tried to fix this. They tried a direct financial incentive, a £20,000 golden hello scheme.
A golden hello?
Yeah, a bonus to try and retain dentists in public practice. The goal was to deliver 284,000 more treatments.
And did it work?
Not at all. By October 2024, a National Audit Office report concluded the scheme had failed to deliver any additional courses of treatment.
Zero. How is that possible?
It just highlights the limits of these little targeted fixes when the whole underlying pay structure is flawed. The British Dental Association basically argued that the bonus just moved existing dentists around instead of actually increasing the number of dentists working in the system.
So it's clear that money is the first mover here. But there's a secondary layer too, which is about work culture and morale.
Yeah, the NHS staff survey data from 2024 showed these significant concerns among doctors: a lack of recognition from senior colleagues, a feeling of being isolated from big decisions.
And just overall job satisfaction. It was worse in 2024 than it was back in 2020.
So when you get that cumulative effect, the financial erosion, combined with the internal workplace dissatisfaction, well, global mobility starts to look less like an adventurous choice and more like a necessary escape route for professional relief and financial survival.
And this UK case study really just underscores the general pressure that high-skilled professionals are feeling, whether it's in India, the UK, or other high-tax nations.
So our whole journey through all this data, it brings us back to this ultimate, really subjective crossroads, doesn't it? It's the choice between aggressive financial wealth building on one hand and overall quality of life on the other.
And the right answer depends entirely on your personal risk tolerance and, I guess, what stage of life you're in.
Completely. And the views on what quality of life even means are often deeply polarized, especially when you compare US and European workers.
Okay, so let's break that down. What's the European argument for having a better quality of life?
The European professional would argue that their better QOL is rooted in the comprehensive social contract that the state provides.
And that's not just about free healthcare, is it? It's more than that.
Oh, it's so much more. It's a whole cradle-to-grave security package. It includes substantial guaranteed benefits, things like a minimum of 4 weeks paid vacation,
Right.
strong worker protections like paid sick leave, even specific provisions for burnout leave in some countries, a fundamentally lower level of certain societal risks, like gun violence.
And then the big social services.
The big ones: generous maternity and paternity leave, free or very cheap higher education for your kids, and robust social security and pension systems. The state basically absorbs the majority of life's biggest financial risks.
Okay, but the American counterargument is that the cost of funding that whole security package is just too high. They'd say their quality of life is actually improved by having a higher disposable income.
Exactly. Which gives them greater spending flexibility and freedom from that European-style taxation, which, can sometimes eat up nearly 50% of your gross wage when you include all the mandatory employer contributions.
This is a really crucial distinction, and I think a lot of people miss it when they just compare headline salaries. We should probably explain this employer cost parity concept really slowly and clearly.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's imagine a big international tech firm. They budget exactly $200,000 to hire a senior software engineer. The cost to the company is $200,000, no matter where that person is.
Right. So in the US, where the mandatory social contributions are relatively low, that company is going to give the vast majority of that $200,000 directly to the employee as their gross salary.
So the employee might see a gross salary of, what, $180,000?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And the other $20,000 covers some basic employer-side payroll taxes and insurance. And then that employee takes home that huge salary and has to manage their entire safety net themselves.
They'd have to pay for their $1,500 a month health care. They have to save for the $40,000 a year child care and put money away for college. They are, in effect, self-insuring.
Exactly. Now, take that same company, that same $200,000 budget for the exact same role, but place them in, say, Germany or France.
Here's where the mechanism is totally different.
Completely different. In many European countries, a huge chunk of that $200,000, often 20 to 40%, is immediately redirected to the state as a mandatory employer social contribution.
And that's the money that funds all those services we just talked about. The subsidized childcare, the public health care, the pension schemes.
That's it. So if 30% of that budget, or $60,000, goes straight to the state before the employee ever sees it, well, their gross salary might only be $140,000.
Which looks a lot lower on paper.
A lot lower. But when they get their paycheck, their net salary is protected in a way, because they don't have to worry about a surprise $1,500 health premium or a $10,000 annual tuition bill.
So it's the difference between high fixed social costs that are baked into the system by the state,
Which is the Europe and Canada model.
versus volatility and cost risk being transferred directly onto the individual employee.
Which is the US model. And the key is both models cost the employer roughly the same amount of money. The question is just who manages the risk.
So this means the best choice for you is totally dependent on your priorities. If your main goal is maximizing wealth, aggressive investing, and you're willing to navigate all that volatility and self-insure, against risk.
Then the USA, with its high nominal salaries, or Dubai, with its zero tax setup, are probably the superior choices for you. They maximize your ability to accumulate capital as long as you can handle the high cost of living, the temporary status, or the immense burden of self-insuring.
But if your top priority is safety, stability, a predictable work-life balance, and comprehensive support for your family, where the state handles the big, scary risks like healthcare and education.
Then Europe or Canada or even staying in India for that cultural security and family connection is the superior choice. Even if it means you have to accept a substantially lower number on your paycheck,
You're either paying high fixed costs through taxes for comprehensive coverage.
or you're getting a massive gross salary and being told, good luck, you're on your own to manage all those high-cost, high-risk items yourself. That is the fundamental trade-off. Hashtag outro, the final takeaway.
So this whole deep dive into the global career gamble, it just reveals that there really are no perfect places to live and work. There are just these deeply complex trade-offs, and each one is optimized for a very specific life goal.
And we've seen the sheer power that the professional class of the Global South now has. The power to move and to seek out their own equilibrium.
Absolutely. Dubai offers that immediate, really compelling tax shield. It enables huge monthly savings, but it demands you accept sky-high housing costs and a life as a non-citizen, a temporary resident.
Then you have the USA, which provides the highest nominal salaries on the planet. But those salaries get rapidly eaten away by a complex, multi-layered tax system and the crippling, unpredictable cost of insuring yourself against healthcare and childcare risks, a system that is now fueling a national affordability crisis.
And finally, India. While it provides this unrivaled job security and deep cultural and family connection, it's grappling with its own increasing financial pressure from rising taxes and a rising cost of living, which is actively pushing its most valuable professionals to look for those greener, tax-friendlier pastures abroad.
You know, the core decision for any globally mobile professional, it really does hinge on that idea of risk management we talked about. Do you fundamentally value the massive gross salary you see in the US, which forces you to take on the burden of building your own safety net from scratch?
Or do you value the lower net salary you find in a place like Canada or Europe, where the state automatically handles all the high-cost, high-risk services and removes that huge psychological and financial burden from your shoulders?
So here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with, looking ahead to the next global economic cycle.
Given the rising tax pressure on professionals in hubs like India and this severe systemic affordability crisis that's plaguing the high-wage USA, we're seeing this talent flow accelerate towards tax-free, high-savings hubs like Dubai and KSA.
So the question is, will this mass mobility, this newfound freedom of high-skilled workers to basically arbitrage global tax and social systems, will it force governments all over the world to urgently adjust their own social contracts?
Will they have to either dramatically lower taxes or, conversely, vastly improve their public services just to compete in this global race to retain their most valuable workers?
The competition for talent is only getting more intense, and all the data suggests that money by itself is no longer enough to keep the world's brightest professionals tied down to any single flag.
The ultimate career equilibrium is yours to find and define. We hope this deep dive has armed you with a more comprehensive perspective and the critical data you need to navigate that choice. See you next time.